And the least interesting of the BCS at 8:30 from Sun Life Stadium in Miami. Not the national championship, but the Discover Orange Bowl.
Northern Illinois versus Free Shoe University. Well, Free Shoe University gets that name because they give free shoes to whichever athletes go there. That's why they have the superior athletes. That's why they will beat Northern Illinois. Not because Northern Illinois is not a very good team and they're from a school that nobody's really ever heard of, but because Florida State gives away free shoes. They have too much talent, way too much. This game's going to be bad. They're going to kill Northern Illinois by a lot.
Yeah, this one, I may have to turn this off in the second half, just like last year's Orange Bowl.
I'm going to probably turn this off during the pregame show.
Florida State wins this one pretty handily. Northern Illinois almost doesn't have much business being there. But, oh well. The All-State Sugar Bowl. Louisville against his second team, Florida.
Here come the Gators! Well, let me tell you something why the Florida Gators are going to win this game. Because Florida Gators just, you know, if you're not a Gator, you're Gator bait. That's pretty much how it works. You know, if you're not a Gator, you're Gator bait. So clearly the Gators going to win. I mean, unless they're playing South Carolina now, but Gators, if you're not a Gator, you're Gator bait. So that's why they're going to win. Florida wins it all the way. Charlie Strong might have been an ex-Gator coach, but the Gators' defense is one of the best in the country, probably second just to LSU, even though Florida did beat LSU this year.
Sadly.
And Florida's offense, as dreadful as they are, I think their defense keeps them in it. Muschamp somehow wills his team to another victory. Florida's had an incredible year. Gators finish it off with a win over Louisville. And
because they beat my second team. No! But anyway. Louisville is Big East, and they almost shouldn't be a BCS conference. And Florida is, I will have to admit, awesome. I mean, if you got
Florida's offense is pretty bad, but
and I will have to agree with Adam why Florida wins, and he might as well say it again.
Because if you're not a Gator, you're Gator bait.
Exactly. The Tostitos Fiesta Bowl, the last college football game that Andrew Luck played in. Oregon against K-State.
I have one thing to say: K-State versus Baylor. Baylor put up, what, 875,000 yards and about 100 points on Kansas State's defense. Like it was bad. It was awful. Oregon's going to do the same thing. Kansas State can't compete with Oregon's offense. And Oregon's defense is pretty good, so Colin Klein's not exactly going to roll over that defense. Oregon's too good on both sides of the football. Kansas State's front seven are not physical enough. Oregon Ducks by a lot. They crush Kansas State.
Yeah, super. Look what Oregon has. Super Mariota. DeAnthony Thomas. You know what they do in Eugene? Because Eugene had Eugene put a chip on Kelly's shoulder. And and they don't wear cleats in Eugene. They wear track shoes. Oregon does not beat Kansas State. They don't whoop Kansas State. They shellac Kansas State.
Yeah.
The Cotton Bowl, A&M against Oklahoma.
Bob Stoops and his Oklahoma teams have been overrated for a long time. He's been riding that one national championship like 100 years ago where their quarterback was like Matt or Josh Heupel or something like that, where they shut down Florida State's horrible offense and they won like 10-0.
Yeah.
Ever since then, Stoops has been riding that gravy train. Oklahoma is an underachiever in and throughout. And the bottom line is Johnny Football, Johnny Heisman,
Johnny Manziel.
Texas A&M. Their offense is awesome. They're flying high as a kite right now. They're flying higher than the International Space Station. They're flying higher than that comet that's supposed to hit our planet before this bowl game. They're just flying high.
Yeah,
and
the 21st.
A&M's unstoppable. They're unstoppable right now. A&M takes out Oklahoma. And honestly, I think they do it by 2 or 3 touchdowns. I don't think Oklahoma has the team. I think Landry Jones is an overrated fraud. So a year from now, when he's in the NFL and he's stinking really badly, we can come back and look at this moment. Landry Jones is a fraud. He is a fraud. He'll be an awful quarterback in the NFL.
The only thing
Mark it down.
Yeah. The only thing good about Oklahoma is that commercial with the wide receiver. Hello!
The only thing good about Oklahoma is the musical, okay? and Landry Jones's girlfriend. But the musicals, OKLA, no. Oklahoma is going to get blown out.
A&M's got a coach that looks like Mike Tomlin, and that's the reason why they win. For that and Johnny Football, Texas A&M wins this. They whoop Oklahoma. The Discover BCS National Championship game, January 7th at 8:30 p.m. This is the only bowl at which I will have red eye the next day.
And of course, it says the start time's 8:30, but kickoff's probably like 9:15, which means the game with all the commercials and that 80-minute halftime, game's probably going to end at like 2 in the morning.
Notre Dame against that team from Tuscaloosa.
Or as the tree poisoner said, roll tide roll.
And of course, this is what Adam posted on his Facebook a little while ago from the movie It's a Wonderful Life. Every time a bell rings, Nick Saban
wins the championship. And that's true. Okay, I mean, bottom line is Alabama, Notre Dame. Notre Dame's had a great year. They've had a magical year. They've had the mojo. And you know what? In years past, I've always felt very bad about teams with mojo because they just somehow find ways to win. The Pittsburgh game this year, Notre Dame should not have won that game. They really shouldn't have. They should have lost that. The Stanford game should have gone into overtime because that guy scored. I don't care what anybody says. That guy clearly scored. That was just a horrible thing. Notre Dame was in a bunch of close games. They pulled them all out, and that's great. And they're a tough defense. They're a legit football team. Brian Kelly's done a great job. However, Alabama wins this game unless one thing happens. If Alabama does what they did against Texas A&M, and even started to do in the first half against Georgia, which is put A.J. McCarron in the shotgun and start throwing the ball more and running it less, that's when Notre Dame can beat Alabama. However, if Alabama does what they do in the second half against Georgia and what they did in the second half against A&M, even though they came up short, if they go into their power I formations and they run Lacey and they run Yeldon and they play action pass and they don't make McCarron be great, just be that solid game manager he's been all year long, Alabama will win this game. The only team that can beat Alabama in this championship game is Alabama. Alabama's defense, although they're not nearly as good as they were last year, that's obvious. Notre Dame's offense is efficient. They have a running quarterback. But I just think in the end, if Bama pounds Notre Dame's defense like they should the entire game, by the end of the third quarter, Alabama will be gashing that defense. Alabama wins it in the end by, I'm going to say, a touchdown, even though it probably should be more like 10 points. But Alabama, Nick Saban, and the Tide start a big-time dynasty, and it'll be interesting to see how long he keeps it going because he's a young man and his recruiting classes every year are top 5.
And what's the score?
I'm going to go with, you know what? I'm going to say 24-17, Alabama.
24-17? Adam's going to be really surprised at who I picked because I will admit this right now. I picked Bama.
Wow. Mr. Blow Tide Blow is picking Alabama. Well, that's because your football savvy knowledge is saying, yeah, there's no way Notre Dame's going to win this game.
Now that doesn't mean I won't be rooting for Bama because I won't be. Blow Tide Blow. But you got to admit it. Saban's awesome, and I just hate Alabama because they keep winning. They keep winning. I want them to lose.
I respect Alabama. I like teams that go on these big runs and win a lot because it's like something you don't see a whole lot, especially in college football. There's a lot of parity in college football, and in the end, to see somebody dominate the way Saban's dominated. I mean, he won a national title with LSU, so you got to have a little love for the guy.
Yes.
And then he comes back with Alabama, and he's won 2 now in 3 years. Could make it 3 championships in 4 years with Alabama. That's like that's like Tom Osborne mid-'90s stuff. That's unprecedented. That's awesome. And I think that's like, good for college football.
That's like Phil Jackson mid-'90s stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty... that's pretty unheralded, and I think it's good for college football to have this one team that everybody wants to look up to and is looking to beat. So definitely Alabama, unless they put McCarron in the if Alabama puts him in the shotgun and they start running a different offense, Notre Dame can beat Alabama. They've got the mojo. They've got a solid defense. If they make McCarron win the game, they lose it. But if they let Yeldon and Lacey win the game for them, Alabama's too much. They have the best offensive line in the country.
Unfortunately, Notre Dame will get Laceyed by the Yeldon. And I just hope Saban goes to the Lions. Because Saban would change that Lions dynasty or that Lions team around, and not their dynasty. God, when's the last time they've won a Super Bowl?
And this is why I find this Alabama conundrum to be very interesting, because Nick Saban already went to the NFL and he said he'll never do it again because he realized that the NFL is not for him. Basically, he doesn't want to babysit. He wants to teach young players, help them grow up, give them a little money for school and whatever else he can do. But ultimately, Saban's a college guy and he's young. He's not going to go to another team. Alabama's as good as it gets in college football. He's not going to go to the NFL. He's not going to go to the Canadian Football League. Nick Saban's going to stay at Alabama, and who knows how long and how many championships that guy can win, unless some other teams start really challenging him.
LSU.
Maybe. They got to get an offense together. But yeah, LSU's they're a good team to beat those guys. But who knows, maybe A&M and Johnny Football in the future don't lose to Florida. I don't know how my Gators did that, but whew.
Just once again, what did you say about Florida?
Well, if you're not a Gator, you're Gator bait.
But anyway, I picked Bama 24, Notre Dame 20.